On this virtual tour stop, I'm going to be trying to explain how we go about figuring out how much area we actually need to have in this kind of good quality foraging habitat for red-cockaded woodpecker for the bird to actually survive and thrive and start meeting some of our recovery goals down here in the sandhills. You know, in the previous stop I explained that really what we're looking for is kind of a minimum of about 40 square feet of basal area comprised of these kind of large diameter longleaf pine trees. And again, if you kind of look around here, we're certainly not lacking that in this area. But you need more than an acre of that to really kind of provide enough foraging area for the bird. Now when I say foraging area, it's a pretty literal interpretation of those words. Red-cockaded woodpeckers survive off of basically feeding, they survive by feeding off of insects that exist in this system. So there's a combination of different things going on in here. You get that nice combination of wiregrass and an open woodland structure that's not dense enough to suppress that wiregrass. You have the frequent prescribed burning that comes through the area. That keeps the oaks suppressed, that keeps the wiregrass seeding. So it all kind of works together. The pine litter from the overstory longleaf does a really good job of carrying that fire. It all works together amazingly well, and it provides that food source for red-cockaded woodpecker that we're looking for. And when we say foraging area, basically their foraging area is the area occupied by the bark of those trees. So it's not a whole lot different than if you were to try to calculate out how much foraging area you needed for a cattle operation or something like that. You would need to know what kind of cows you have, what kind of grass you have, and how much pasture you have, and then you could work together and figure out how many animal units you could support on those fields or in those pastures. Similar with the woodpecker. The biologists have determined that that 40 square feet of basal area usually produces enough forage, especially if it's comprised of, larger diameter trees. I'm checking my video, it's been malfunctioning. So, that's basically what the biologists have determined. And again, ideally, I threw out 40 square feet of basal area of 10 inches and up. Really, if you really look at the guidelines, what they would prefer would be at least 20 square feet of that would be comprised of trees 14 inches and up at breast height, 14 inches in diameter. So they do put a premium on large diameter trees out here. And again, a lot of that's related to that foraging area side of it. So acknowledging that the size of the tree kind of controls how much foraging area. Think about it, these trees are the pastures for the woodpeckers. It shouldn't be that surprising that there's a site quality aspect to all this. If you have a low quality site, so a base age 50 site index less than 60 feet, so the trees are assumed to be less than 60 feet tall at age 50, that's considered a low quality site in the sandhills. And that's really common here in the sandhills region of the Carolinas. If you have that type of a system, you need a minimum of 200 to 300 acres of this forest structure that you see around you to maintain enough foraging area for the red-cockaded woodpeckers to survive and thrive. That's because the trees, in theory, on a lower quality site are shorter, so there's less foraging area per tree. Whereas if you have a higher quality site, so let's say something like a base age 50 site index over 60, like a site index of 80 on a site like this, you would only need a minimum of about 120 acres for that particular foraging partition to provide enough foraging area for the birds to be healthy. And again, if you think about it, that kind of makes sense because the trees in theory should be taller on a higher quality site. So there would be more foraging area per tree. So you could have less area, taller trees. So it's kind of a similar way if you were to look at the volume in timber that you would get on a high quality site versus a low quality site. To equal the same amount of timber on a lower quality site, you'd probably need more acres in the same timber sale to equal that higher quality site. So that's pretty much how we go about doing it. Luckily, we don't have to do that by hand. Again, checking my video here. There are software programs out there that make it easier for us to calculate that, like the Red-cockaded woodpecker foraging matrix. It's an ArcGIS extension, as well as some people can do it in things like Forest Vegetation Simulator. So with that, I would encourage you to kind of look around, get an idea again what this system looks like, and I'll move on to some new videos.